All right. Thank you, Charles, for pointing that out. So the first step in here, let's take a step back just so that we record it. And I'm going to actually delete this button real quick. Whoops. And so in order to start off with macros, we're going to add a button here that we can use to add an action to. So in here, I'm going to add a button, drop it down here, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the interface. So we've got the button, we've got actions here, and again, we don't write any VBA code. So we're going to click on action, and in here, we've got an on-click property. Now, some of these actually have other things. There might be on current event or an after update or on load and different things like that. So in here, we're going to do on-click, and this is our kind of our macro builder here, where we can pick and choose what we want. So we can, as we add the different actions to the macro, it will automatically give us the different pieces to it. So you can see I just added a comment, a change view, message box, and go to record. So it just builds as we use it. You just keep drawing from this list. You also, over on the right-hand side, have the ability to drag and drop things. So if you want to, let's say you want to use a requery records, I can actually click and drag, and you can see the little red line, and I can drop that where I need it to go, then just let go. And then it will automatically put that statement where I want it to go. The third thing is that we've got a search feature for the action catalog. So if I wanted to, if I didn't quite know where it was and I didn't want to hit the drop down to find requery records here, I could type in requery records here, just start typing it out, and it'll show me exactly where it is. And so now I can either double click on it to bring it down here. I can drag it. If this is in the wrong spot, I can use the up arrow to actually move it up. You can see it moving up, and I can move it back down if I want to. I can hit the X to delete it off of that. And so it's got a really nice user interface to be able to perform it in multiple ways. So just want to point that out. So let's jump in and we'll talk about some of the features of these actions. The first one is comment. Comment is very much like your remark statement, where you have the single quote, and then you start typing things. With a comment, you don't have to have that. You can just automatically start typing. So I'm going to say this is the beginning of the input form modification macros, whatever I want to call it. So what this does then is it just shows this as a comment, and if I click on another one, you can see it shows your slash asterisk, and then and then it says this is the beginning of the input form macros. So you can put comments throughout your VBA code so that you can kind of reach out to them pretty easily. I'm going to show you, I'm just going to drop in some different macros. I'm not really doing anything, but I want to point out another feature. Another feature is called group. And this is one of my favorite features, and it's one of the things that when I first jumped into web macros, I really didn't utilize this feature, but once you get into it, you'll realize how helpful this is. And so what a group does is it allows you to create a group, and I'm just going to call something like changing colors of text boxes. And so I've got this group, and I'm going to go ahead and add a couple things. I'm not even going to do these, but set property, another set property, and then you'll see this end group. And let's say I'm going to go ahead and drop the rest of these in another group. And I'm just going to call it a second group. And so this is one of the other nice things is I can actually, if I want to, I can highlight several of these statements, actions. So I've got go to, control, message box, pop-up, requery. And I can actually drag these. Come on. Let me put this up. So I can drag these into that group. I can just drag and drop them within the group. And so here's the cool part. I mean, it looks kind of boring. What purpose does that serve? A group almost looks like a comment, right? The cool part of it is that in this group, I have called changing colors of text boxes. And you'll see that there's this little minus to the left. That means I can shorten that. I can shrink it up. And so now, as I'm working through my macro, I can group actions all together into different pieces so that it's much more easily manageable for me. So if I only want to work on changing colors of text boxes, I can open that up, make the changes to this, and then close it down. So it just makes it really slick to be able to do that. And what you'll see at the top is we've got expand actions, collapse actions, expand all, collapse all, so that if you don't want to hit the minuses individually, you have the capability of doing that. So that's kind of slick. Also, you'll notice that each, and I'm going to expand all, one of the other nice features is that if you've got a property like the set property and it's got three lines here, this takes up a lot of real estate on the screen. So what we have the capability of doing is hitting the minus, and what this does is it still tells us the property. So let's jump into this again. I'm gonna grab control name. Let's do city text box, and I'm going to choose property back color, and then we're going to use a different back color to change the background color of this. So if I use colors quite a bit, so I'm going to use one called, it's actually light yellow. I'll show you how I use that. So I'm just going to put in, I think it's FFFFCC. And so I'm just changing the text box back color to yellow. So now if I hit the minus sign, you can see it shows me exactly what the properties are without hitting the plus. But if I want to edit it, I can hit that, jump into it, make the changes I want to. So it's I really like the way that they've designed the user interface here. And again, if anybody has any questions as we're going through this, please stop me. So we're going to we talked about comment, we talked about group and how useful that is. Now we're going to get into some of the other actions that are in here. And I'm actually going to delete out that entire group. And we're going to work on just this portion here. So we're going to work on the set property. You'll notice I'm going to close out of this macro. I'm just going to hit X. It's going to ask us if we want to save. It's going to save. Here's the button. And I'm going to do change back color. Actually, I can just call it back color if we wanted to, because that's what we're working with. And so if you'll notice that in this forms interface that we have a foreground color here, and we can choose what color we want for a foreground color, but there is no back color. There's no back color for city. Yes. Jack says, nice feature of the macros is being able to highlight and paste. Yeah, and I love that. I love that as well. It's really nice to be able to, especially if you want to highlight sections of macros, you can get rid of it, different things like that. But you'll notice like here, there is no back color up here, so we had to use a set property command to do that. So what we told it to do, again, is that we're the on-click property, we're setting the property of the city text box back color to be yellow. And I do this so that I can point out, I do this so that you can actually point out which fields are kind of required fields. So if I were to save this, what we're going to do now is we're going to view this in a browser. So once this saves, we'll actually open it up and view this in a browser. And while this is saving, the macros are actually XML, so you can copy and paste into an email and mail it to someone. So, yeah. And I've gotten this before. Bear with me. If I choose save again, it's going to tell me somebody else is using it, and then I need to save. I'm just having for some reason I'm having a problem on with my server here, but it says clients list can't be saved because someone made changes to it. Really, I'm the only one who made changes to it. If I save again this time, it'll save fine. It's just a pattern that I found. So this time it's saved. Now if I open and launch this app into I'm going to launch it in the web browser. And so what you'll see is it's going to show us the client's list. And Charles, in just a second, I'll show you how to copy that macro into an XML. It's very easy. So in here, you can see here that here's the data. I'm going to click on back color, and you can see it changed the back color of city to that light yellow. So, and this is kind of nice. So one of the things I will do, and I'm going to jump back over to Access again. And we're in this one. And so one of the things that I like to do is when a person opens up this form, I want to immediately show that user what are the required fields. In this case, let's say our required fields are first name and last name. So what I will do is down here, if we click on the button, we've got actions here. But if we click on the form, the whole form itself, I also have actions as well. So in here, I can say onload. And when I do this, it's going to do an onload event of this view on this form. So I'm going to say set property. I'm going to start typing in first name. It's got two options, a label and a text box. We're going to choose the text box. We're going to say put the back color here. And then we're going to put in, let's see, nope, that's not it. # FFFFCC. And then we're going to do another set property. This one's going to be the last name text box, back color, # FFFFCC. Okay. So now I'm going to close out of this and save it. And now, because it's on the onload event of this, it's going to it's going to happen when we first open the form. So I'm going to go ahead and save this again. I'm going to go ahead and click on Launch App. In the future, I'll show you a shortcut for this Launch App here. Yeah, and so while we're waiting for that, Charles is asking, can you copy a macro from a button and paste it into the Onload macro? Yes, you can copy and paste from a macro to another macro. So let's go, we're going to go ahead and launch this app. And so now when it first opens, you can see my, it changes the back color of those two. So it kind of reminds the user these two fields are editable, these two fields are required. That's kind of one of those things that I do. And again, I still have this back color button if I wanted to set the city to that color as well. one of the things that to take the back color and forecolor properties one step further, sometimes what I'll do is I will do some math behind the scenes. For instance, one of the apps that I created over the last 3 years is called Waterfall Calc. And in that app, it's for the mortgage servicing industry, and we had cases where we had people typing in the wrong dates. So they would enter in the loan date, and then they would enter in another date, let's say the default date, and they would have the default date, accidentally they would enter the default date before the loan occurred. And so in order to prevent those kind of things from happening, we use an if-then statement within when on saving the record, and what we would do is we change the color a little bit further. So I'm going to jump back in here, and so what? And I'm just going to kind of mimic what I did. I'm going to change this to 4 color back color. And this time, put in an extra space. This time what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change both properties. So I'm going to go back in on click, and I'm going to say we're going to change the city back color. We're going to make that red. So let's do 993333. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a set property of the same box, the city text box, and we're going to make the forecolor, we're going to make it white. And so that would be FFF. Now, if you're wondering, within my browser, I have, just to show everyone, I kind of cheat, and I have this. If you go to, you can actually, if you search for color picker, you'll find it. But I utilize a website like this so that I can figure out, okay, FFFF99 is the light yellow. Or if I want to choose 993323, that's how I get the red. So you got the ability to change, pick one of these colors, and then when you choose the color, you can choose a shade of that. So that's how I come up with the different colors. There's many different sites that do this. I happen to like w3schools.com for a lot of these kind of samples. So I just wanted to point that one out for the video. And so now, let's go back to the Access. And so we've got city text box back color is this. City text box forecolor is white. And so now I'm going to close out of this, save that. I'm going to save this form. And now I'm going to do something a little different. Before, I clicked on Launch App to launch this in a web interface, which is totally fine. The downside of doing that is when you come over here, you'll see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, well, at least 3 instances. There's actually a 4th one over here. Different instances of that, of this tab. And so that can get kind of harrowing. So another way of handling that is instead of doing that, you can either hit refresh, or I just click right here, this AWA February 2015. If you click on that, it will automatically refresh your browser window. And then when it's done, now we can test out our button. So we've got forecolor back color. When I click on it, you can see how it turns it red. Now, obviously, I wouldn't normally have a button do this, but I might have it on a certain event, maybe on a text field after they're done typing in text, and different things like that. And I'm going to jump over. We had a really good question about the XML. and I'm going to jump back over to Access, I'm going to show you this, is that within this macro is actually behind the scenes. It's stored as XML. So I'm going to do a Control-A to select it all, and I'm going to do a Control-C to copy, and I'm going to jump over to Word again, and I'm going to make some space here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this, and what you'll see is that this is actually XML. You can kind of make out what's going on. You've got your group. You've got the description. This is the text within that group. You've got your action name, which is set property. It's choosing a control name, which is city text box. It's choosing the property, which is back color. It's setting the value of that to this # number. It's setting another, it's ending the action. You can see the slash action. You've got your action name, set property, control name, city text box. For color is this, and then you can see the end of it. And it says, please show how you paste it back in. Okay, good. So we've got that, and now if we wanted to take that, close out of here, and we go into let's say our on current macro, I can do a Control V. I can do a Control V, and that just pastes it right back in. So it's just like you copy and paste into Word or copy and paste into something else. The only thing you have to be careful of is if you are in a field, let's say I create a comment field and I type it in here. Oh, actually, that worked out fine. I've had cases where, and maybe they changed that, but I've had cases where I was inside of a comment or something, and it would paste the XML inside of that comment as opposed to adding it on. So good. I learned something too today, so that's awesome. And I don't want to save this, so I'm just going to say no. And you can see the on current is white. That means it's clear. There's nothing in there. So good question. Good questions. Good. Okay, so that's how I use the for color back color feature. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add another button. Now, one of the things I like to do early on, I would notice that if I clicked on another field and I added a button, it added it underneath that field. That's what I told it to do. And then I would have to move it down, move this stuff up. And so what I learned is that instead, wherever you want that button to appear, click on the object. So let's say I want the button to be directly under notes. Click on the button then, and then it will appear under that. If I want the button to appear under here, click on it first, drop it down, and then it will appear under there. Of course, you can move things around. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that that's one thing that I did to, I would consistently do that. One of the other things that I would make the mistake of is that I would have a very long form, and I'm just going to point this out. I'm not going to do tons of this, but actually let me do this. I'm going to repaste. I'm going to drop all these fields down here too. Oops. Let's do this. Fun. And so if you have a very long field, a very long form like this, what I found is that I would be down here working on country, and out of habit, I would click off of this just to the right, so it wasn't highlighted, and boom, it takes me all the way up to the top. And so you learn that instead of clicking off to the side, which takes you up to the top, just click when you're on something, click on another field, and then you won't bounce all the way back up. So just one of those things that I learned that not a big deal, but after a while it got to be frustrating. I'm going to move this stuff back so we have this stuff here. Whoops. All right. All right, cool. So we're going to go back into buttons and we're going to look at some other actions. So we have comments, groups. Everyone understands if. I'm just going to point out one thing that's kind of cool in here is if you have an if statement here, over to the right allows you to add the else and else if. So under here you can click on else if and it will automatically add the else if portions there. If you don't want that, you just hit the X and you can get rid of those. And you can add the add else, which has that there for you as well. So it's a really nice way to do the if then statements. But everyone understands if then, so I'm not going to get into it. Okay. So we've got if. Okay, so now we've got some different choices. Change a view allows us to change the form view of what we're looking on. When we're in a browser interface, we're really looking at pretty much one window at a time. So for instance, if I'm on a website and I click on a link to another site, it normally opens up, unless you told it to open up a new tab or a new window, it opens up on top of it. What change view does is it allows you to change the view to one of the other forms or one of the other views. So in here, if we look at this, and we can see we've got form names called by group, client's datasheet, and we've got client's list. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to tell it to change the view to client's datasheet. So in here, we're going to click on change view. Table is clients. View is client's datasheet. I'm not worried about the where or order by at this point. I'm going to go ahead and close this, save it, yes. I'm going to save the form. Actually, let me change this so we don't lose change to datasheet. And now we'll save this. And then once this is saved, I'm going to jump back over to the browser. I'm going to and I'm going to show you here. Notice we made the change here. We now have two buttons, for color, back color, and change to datasheet. If I go over to the browser, there's only one button because we have not refreshed this browser window. So make sure you refresh the browser so it loads the most current version of this form. And then once it does that, then you'll see here that we'll have the two buttons. So now we've got that, and we have change to datasheet. So we're on list. If I click on change to datasheet, it automatically changes this view to the datasheet view. So it just kind of replaces the view with that. Now, in some cases, you may not want to have it replace what's there, but you want it to open up kind of as a pop-up on top of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into Access, and then we're going to go back into Access, and we are going to add a pop-up feature. And so what I'm going to do, just for kicks, I'm going to go ahead and save this, close out of this, and one of the functions here that if I want to, is I can right mouse click on this client's list, and I'm going to choose duplicate. And so now I'm going to call this client's list. We can call it client's list too, doesn't matter. And so I'm going to go ahead and choose OK. Actually, I'm going to click on standalone pop-up. So I'm going to choose OK. I'll show you why in a second. So it's going to go ahead and create a duplicate of this view. So you'll see here, now we have clients list and we have clients list 2. If I had told it, when I made this duplicate, if I had told it location of duplicate clients, when I see this clients over here, it would add on that as a choice here. I don't want to see that extra choice here, which is why I chose standalone pop-up. That way it doesn't appear there. So now we're going to tell it to open up this view. Now just for kicks, I am going to open this, and I'm going to delete out some of the stuff so that we know that it's actually changed to something. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. Close that out. We're going to edit this one again. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add another button. And this time we're going to have this open pop-up 2. And so in here we're going to tell it, instead of changing the view to replace the form that it's on, we're going to tell it to open pop-up. And so what this is going to do is it's going to allow us clients list 2. I'm not going to use a where or order by clause. One thing I do want, and I'm going to show you, notice this time when we did it, when we typed out clients list 2, it actually did the autocomplete for us. I'm not quite sure why in an open pop-up it does the auto fill for us, whereas, and I'm going to go ahead and close this, whereas when we were in change data sheet, this one, if we start typing clients, it did not fill this in. I'm not quite sure why the functionality of those two is different. If Kevin knows, maybe he can add some commentary there. But I wish this had the capability of auto filling just like this one did, but that's beside the point. So here we've got open pop-up 2. So let's see how we're going to save this again, and we're going to take a look at how that's different. So as soon as this is done saving, we're going to go back to our browser. We're going to refresh this. So it's going to show us the third button. And then this time, what we're going to click on Open Pop-up 2. You'll notice when we do this, it opens up the view as a pop-up from this. It's just like having a modal pop-up where we can't access the stuff behind it until we close out of this. So we can hit the X to close. Now, what we could have done is to help the user interface a little bit is we could have taken this client list 2, taken this a step further, added a button, and just like the other one has open pop-up, this one we might have closed pop-up, and so the action for this, obviously, would be close pop-up. That's all we have to do. So we're going to close that, save it, and so if we were just trying to enhance the user experience, we're going to go back over to our browser again. We're going to refresh this. This time, I'm going to click on Open Pop-up 2. It shows us that. We can click on Close Pop-up. It closes the pop-up. So you can do that instead of just having the user click X. It's your choice, but I kind of like to add those little buttons, feature buttons for people. Good. And again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and post those. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and jump right back, and we're going to add another button. So we're going to go back into Design, add a button, go into Actions, on Click. And so we've got Change View, we've got Close Pop-Up. We all understand Delete Record, Edit Record. Go to Control just allows you to jump to a control on your view, on your form. So you can go to do that. You can go to a record. You can pop up a message box. One thing I want to point out with a message box is that if you're in Internet Explorer, the message box looks very similar to what you have as your desktop app. It opens up that nice window in the middle. If you, this is a message box. If I do it in, I happen to use Chrome. So if I add this, show message box, then what happens is that, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Instead of popping up in the middle of the screen, it actually pops up at the top of the screen. And so that's why when I'm working with our banking customers, we encourage them to use Internet Explorer 11 so they can see things as a message box. But I'll show you what it looks like in Chrome just so you have an idea. So again, I got this. I've had this happen before. Click X, save it a third time, and then the third time we'll save it. All right, Charles, thanks for joining us. Alan says he has a question about the layout. All right, Alan, go ahead and type in your question. I'll try and answer that. Judy asked, why do you use Chrome? You know, for me, I prefer Chrome. I can do some, I don't know, I guess I'm just very comfortable with it. All my favorites are in Chrome. I can format it the way I want. I like the way I can move around things on the home screen so I can have the most used 8 screens showing on that main. So it's just really personal preference. You know, some people prefer Firefox over everything else. You know, it's just a it's just personal preference. So Alan asked, is there a way to change the layout of these controls like we do in desktop apps? The layout of these, you can move these around, you can change them, you can make them a third column and different things like that. You can grab groups of things, you can move them around. Some of the things that you can't do is you can't lay them on top of each other. You know, I've seen some desktop apps where, you know, if a person's relatively new to Access and they don't want to reuse let's say a tab control for 2 different things or a subform for 2 different things, what I've seen them do is they'll overlap home phone with work phone, and then show one or hide one, and it's appearing in the same place. We don't have the capability of doing that kind of thing in a web app. On the good note, though, is that it's very clean. It's a very, very clean interface. When as you're growing these, you can see that they all kind of snap to the grid. It's a very clean interface to work with. One of the other things that we have some limitations just because of the browser interface, and just to kind of show you that is that if I'm in edit mode here, in a desktop app, I can tell it what we want the tab order to be if I want it to go down the screen. In this case, we don't have that capability. If we hit tab, we have to go to each field as it appears in the browser window. That's how every browser works. The only way that you can change that that I've found is that if you know for sure that they're going to be editing the field, you can go into your form and you can use the after update property to tell it on the after update, go to control. In this case, we'll choose company text box. And so we're forcing it to go from, go ahead and say this, we're forcing it to go from first name to company. Now, the downside of that is that if they don't type in something in first name and they, so let's save it and I'll show you. I'll kind of show you what I mean. So open up the browser again, refresh this. And so if I'm editing this and I type in Andrew and I hit tab, it goes to Work Smart Database Masters. However, if I don't change this and I hit tab, it goes to Tavis because we didn't change anything, so it's not updating anything, so it can't do an after update. It's not like a on lost focus. It's not like that kind of a command. So you have to kind of think through some of those strategies. Again, if you're requiring the fields, then you're home free. But if I change this to Andy, hit tab, it'll go wherever we want. But again, you have to kind of plan for how the user is going to be utilizing the system and really put them in the order and the way they're going to be used. Alan, if you've got more questions on that, that's great. But in a previous session, we did talk about the different kinds of controls. I think that's posted up on the Access Web App site. If not, we can, in a future meeting, or if you email me, we can kind of review that together, because there are some different controls, and the controls, how the controls operate in here that are really nice. And we've gone over these, but these would, each one has their own little idiosyncrasies. So good question. So in here, we're going to go back, and we talked about the message box. If I click on Show Message Box, notice here, this is a message box, but it's got this kind of a weird name at the top. This is the name of this app. This is where it's at, .sharepoint.com. So it looks a little bit different. One thing that I've kind of requested is that at least to make this bigger than this, so that this is what gets people's attention, not this. So it would be nice to have that kind of functionality in the future. But if you're using Internet Explorer, that's a non-issue. Great question, Alan. All right, let's jump back over to Access, and let's create another button, and we'll take a look at some of the other actions. So we've got comment group, edit record, delete record, go to control, go to record, message box, create a new record. We talked about open pop-up. I think everyone understands requery the records to kind of view all the records. Run data macro. Basically, a run data macro, we had a whole session on running data macros, but basically what data macros do is they allow you to perform actions like we do the record sets. So if you remember in the VBA world where we dim DB as DAO.database, and we dim RS as record set, and then we tell it to loop through records, and sometimes we'll have it loop through and do different things. So what data macros do is allow us to loop through records, to find a record, or to say, do this same action with all these different records. So it gives you the capability of doing those kind of things. Again, we talked about data macro in another session, so we're not going to get into that tonight. We've got the ability to run a macro. So if you started out, we don't have to use these buttons and put the actions here. We could actually go straight into advanced macro, go ahead and create all the pieces of our macro, save this macro. We can save this as a macro name, and then, I'm not going to do that. And then when we're in here, we can tell it to run the macro that already exists. So we hit the drop down, we'll see the macro listed there, and so that's another way of performing the macro. Really, the only time I do that is if I have the same macro that I'm utilizing in multiple views. Otherwise, I keep the actions inside of the view that I'm working on. Just for me, it's more of a consistent thing. Okay, so we've got that. Save record, everybody understands. Set property, we talked a little bit about with the back color, but I just want to show you some of the other choices. Enabled, do you want that control enabled or disabled? Do you want that control visible? Or that, do you want it, so visible, true or false? Do you want to set the back color? Do you want to set the fore color? Do you want to change the caption that's there? Do you want to change the value that's there? So it allows you to do all those things. Allows you to do all those things there. And, okay, I'm not going to say that, so we'll do this. Set variable. A variable is basically, there's different kinds of variables. You'll probably hear temp variable, local variable, return variable. A variable basically is a way to set a value to something that you use later on. So for instance, perhaps you want to set a variable of a salary increase. You want to increase a person's salary by 5%. So you could set a variable and have variable name increase equals salary times 1.05. And then so you can set a variable like that, and then you can utilize that variable in other actions. So that's how that's used. A local, by the way, if you work with data macros and you see local variables and return variables, local variable only is in the view that you're in. It's only within what you are in. A variable is across the board. So even if I set a variable in this view, I can actually access that variable in other views. So that's kind of one of the nice things. And then we can stop a macro if something happens. You want to stop it. If it finds a value that's less than 1 or whatever, tell it to stop the macro so it doesn't continue, and then undo the record. If you want to do not pass go, do not collect $200, you can tell it to undo the record, and then you don't have that there. So that's the functionality of that. Remember, so you can create actions within buttons. You can create actions within your other controls, text boxes, combo boxes. All of these areas have actions that you can set them to. The form itself has actions, so you've got onload and oncurrent, and also you've got this action bar across the top. Now this action bar can be customized to fit your needs. If you want the user to be able to add and edit but not delete, I can actually delete out this button and make it gone, so it's not, so they can't utilize that button. You can also uh, uh, with these buttons, I don't recommend you move them around, but you can do that. But if you see this little plus symbol, I can click on that plus and I can add another action button here. So maybe there's something in here that you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and click on this data. And here, this is the control name. And I can call it Andy Test. I can call it whatever, Andy Test action button, whatever. And you can see there's a bunch of different pictures to choose from. So you got like requery if you want to have a refresh. If you want to build that in, you can have that in there, so it'll change the picture. And so you've got your on tip. What do you want it to say? I'm going to just call this, I'm going to call it requery. And then on the on-click property, I can go ahead and choose requery records. And I'm not going to choose the where or order by. So now, save this. So now the user at the top of the screen can requery the records here. So you can go ahead and add any functionality that you want to there. So you got this set of pictures. There's a lot of different pictures, but sometimes there's not every picture that you want. So just keep that in mind. That's why you want to use this tool tip. So that's everything I wanted to talk about with macros. I am going to open up this for questions. So if you have, if any of you have any chat questions that you want to ask, feel free to do that. I think everyone's on mute. So if anybody wants to talk, let me know and I will unmute you. Yeah, any questions, let me know. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for the macro little demo today. I'm going to go ahead and stop that, and we will. That's about 53 minutes. That will be available on the Access Web Apps website.